Hey everyone, Paul-ISM, welcome to another video. So today we're going to revisit and add to a video I did some years back. Now, we're going to have a look at cleaning, disassembling, reassembling and lubing the Ultimate APEX Airbrush. Like I say, I did a video a couple of years back. I didn't properly cover fully cleaning it. There I remember. Off the top of my head, I covered backflowing it and getting it ready for your next colour change. I didn't fully strip it, so that's what we're going to cover today. There's a few videos out there on airbrush cleaning, and Scott, Two Kids Don't Sleep, made a good video on the Apex as well on cleaning it. But with us selling it and it being our channel, I thought I'm going to have to do one for our channel, and this is it. Like I said, we've covered it before. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth today. So we're going to start off with an overview of the airbrush, have a look at it, talk about some of the key features, look at the instructions, so on and so forth. We're then going to go to the spray booth and show my back flushing regime. So basically, if I've sprayed something, we're going to use black UMP primer. If I've sprayed something and we want to change colour, or we know we're going to paint later on in the day, or whatever, this is my back flush routine to clean out enough that the airbrush isn't going to get problems. We're then going to go to the bench and we're going to fully strip it, fully deep clean it, reassemble it, lube it, ready, and that's a full deep clean. Now the airbrush I'm going to do is my primer airbrush. I have multiple airbrushes for different uses: metallics, 2K, lacquers and primers. And the primer that goes through this airbrush is literally Ultimate Primer. If you've used our primer, you'll know how good it is. It sticks like stuff to a blanket. It's amazing stuff. It can be awkward to clean if you don't use it right, and I'm going to show you today an easy way of doing it. Now, we're going to use Ultimate Airbrush Cleaner. Highly recommend if you've not used it. Yes, it's our product and it's a sales pitch, but it's a very, very good, really good airbrush cleaner. So, different paints are going to require different cleaners, whether it be water-based acrylic or alcohol-based acrylics, Ultimate Primer, so the likes of Vallejo, Tamiya XF and X-Range, the Mr. Hobby Aqueous, Vallejo Model Colour, Model Air, Game Colour, Life Colour, so on and so forth. They're all water-based or alcohol-based acrylics. They can be cleaned just fine with Ultimate Cleaner and thinned with them, no problem whatsoever. When you move on to stuff like AK Extreme, Alkalads, Mr. Hobby Super Metallics, 2K Clear, Zero, Splash, the new LP Ranger paints from Tamiya, Mr. Colour, they're all lacquer-based paints, bar the AK, which is enamel. They will require a cellulose/lacquer thinner. We call it cellulose in the UK. It's more commonly known as lacquer thinner because that's the nature of what's needed to clean it out. So the principle for what I'm going to show is the same for both cleaners, whether it be lacquer or water alcohol-based paints. It just depends on the medium you need to clean it. So whatever I do, you can use with both cleaners. It's simple, both the back flushing and the full strip down. Just change the cleaner, the principle stays exactly the same. Now, like I say, this airbrush hasn't been cleaned in months. I reckon, I honestly can't remember. My backflow cleaning regime is that good. I never get problems, I never get blockages, I never have any issues at all. And when I do, if I ever do, I know it's down to me. It's one of those, but I can't remember the last time this thing was cleaned. It's easily 2 to 3 months ago, easy. What I used to do was every time I finished a build, I cleaned the airbrushes. When I was building aircraft or armour, that could be a month, 2 months, 3 months, and I do it. With building the cars, I'm finishing one a week, and that regime's gone. Really not cleaning them as often as I should. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get out of this. And what I plan to do is use a single piece of white paper, a single cotton bud, and we'll see what kind of we get out of there. It should be, fingers crossed, pretty clean, but we'll soon see what 3 months of everyday use uses. Now, everyday use or weekly use to me, what I do in a year could take the average modeler 5 years. I model a lot, I paint a lot, I build a lot, because this is kind of what I do. This is part of UMP and ISM from promotion and, my own hobby as well. So I model a lot. So what I do can be quite a lot more than what the average modeler will do in a week or even a month or a year. So my airbrushes get a lot of use, and yes, my cleaning regime has got pretty good. So we'll see how good that's got in a little bit. So what we'll do first is we'll have a little look at an overview of the airbrush. Then we'll go to the spray booth and show the back flushing regime. Then we'll come back to the bench and we'll have a full strip down, a good look through, and see what we get out. You get your needle nozzle spanner, you get the needle protector, and a plastic colour cup as well. You get a full set of instructions, which covers basic use, maintenance, and also an exploded diagram on the back of all the parts in the airbrush. Now, every single one of these airbrushes that comes through our hands is personally stripped, checked, lubed, and set up by myself. So you know when your airbrush arrives, it's going to work perfectly, and it's set up to work just how all mine are. As you see, full exploded diagram on the back with the parts listings as well. So if you ever break anything or lose anything, you should be able to look quickly and see what is missing. So the airbrush comes with a progressive 0.35mm needle. That means for the first micromillimeter of travel, you get a very fine pattern. Pull it back, you get a much wider pattern. You got a finger rest to help with finger fatigue on the airbrush as well. We've got solvent resistant inner seals as well, so you can use lacquers, enamels without any worries whatsoever. It's got a reversible needle guard on the front. Got plastic colour cup as standard. You can adjust the trigger tension as well on the airbrush. You can use the supplied needle nozzle spanner to loosen the needle nozzle should you wish. All the needle nozzles should be hand tight anyway from when I've set the apexes up for customers before they get posted out, so you shouldn't really need the spanner anyway. If you unscrew the barrel at the back, you unscrew the needle chuck, and this allows you to remove the needle should you need to take it out for maintenance or cleaning. If you're putting it back together, make sure the needle is out the back, out the way, and then screw the needle nozzle cover on. Give it a little bit of a hand tight. Seat the needle properly. Tighten it up, and there we go. Check your tension. You can adjust it on the little barrel at the back to either heavier or lighter, and have it as you wish. Also comes with 1/8 air valve as well, so that will fit all the standard air hoses and quick releases. Very, very handy, as the finger guard rest as well. So that's the overview of the airbrush. It's a very useful airbrush, and I'm very impressed. And like I say, it's literally all I use nowadays. The colour cup that comes with it comes with a plastic lid. We do an optional metal one as well, and this is well worth getting. It fits absolutely beautiful, real precision, just enough tension on there to stop it falling off without being too tight and a nightmare to remove. So a very, very nice option. And as I'll show in a bit, we do optional needle nozzle sets in 0.2mm and 0.5mm as well, and we also carry the full range of spares. Whilst all the internal washers are lacquer and enamel solvent proof, some of the external ones that are there for either cosmetic reasons or purposeful to hold things tight, they are rubber O-rings. Now this little one here lives inside the air valve inside the airbrush. This is an air valve from the airbrush, and it sits just in there, and that pointy bit at the top is where your trigger sits and presses down for air. Now if you were to spill any lacquer based cleaner or paint or thinner in there, it will travel down into that air valve through the top and will make the O-ring swell. Now that O-ring swells, either won't allow the trigger to push down, or it will push down and stay stuck. So if it does that, leave it for 24 hours and it should reduce in size and work again perfectly. But just bear that in mind when using lacquer thinners. Okay, so here we go. This is everything we've got. I previously primed some parts, so I thought an ideal time. We've used some Ultimate Black primer. Absolutely superb water-based acrylic polyurethane primer. As you can see, the airbrush still has a remnant in there. We've got partly dried and still wet primer in there. This is my venerable primer airbrush that's been used for about 2 years, and it's showing some signs of wear. We've got the Ultimate airbrush cleaner. Again, superb airbrush cleaner for all your water-based and alcohol-based acrylics. If you're using any lacquer or enamel paints, you're going to need a cellulose or lacquer thinner to clean them out. You can transfer the cleaning through either cleaner. Just switch the cleaner appropriately for the paint required. We've also got a paintbrush, an old Il Atelier paintbrush I use for cleaning, and some kitchen paper as well. So, making sure as much paint is out of the airbrush as possible, we're putting in about 1 milliliter of airbrush cleaner. We're now going to backflow it. This will push out any loose paint and any hopefully partially dry paint into the colour cup. We're now going to get our brush and agitate the colour cup walls and the bottom of the airbrush to get as much paint off as we can. Agitate any dry paint to get it removed, and obviously get any crud or gunk floating around in the solution. Now once you've done this, you will see by the state of the brush it is very dirty because we still have lots of primer in there. Whatever you do, do not blow this through your airbrush now. Backflow it once more and we tip it away. I have a receptacle to the side where I tip away any spent paint. As you can see, there's some more kitchen roll in there. We tip it out, get as much out as possible, and again we're still not going to blow it through. We're going to use the tissue to get out all the remnants from inside that colour cup, and we should be pretty much clean. As you can see, a quick look in there, there's a little bit of airbrush cleaner still in there. So we give it one back flush, a brush, a tip away, and then we spray away the remnants of that. We're now going to do another milliliter of cleaner. As you can see, it's still a little bit dirty. Give it another agitate with the brush. Again, all over the walls, just being thorough. Right down the bottom of the channel. Pulling the airbrush trigger back to pull the needle back so we can gain access to it. And again, we're going to backflow it. No damage is caused by backflowing at all. And then blow away what we've got left. As you can see, once we give it a wipe with the paper again, this thing will be spotless. Also worthwhile while you're here now, give the exterior a wipe to get any spilled paint off there or thinners, and as you can see, absolutely spotless inside. Perfect. So this is the regime I use for between colour changes and before leaving it for the day. But what I tend to do now as well is pull the airbrush needle out as well. Now I wouldn't recommend pulling it out the back because if there's dried on paint on there, it could damage the needle seal inside. But as we just clean this, and I know there's airbrush cleaner in there and nothing dried on there, it's safe to pull out the back. If there's any dry paint on there or any resistance, disassemble the airbrush and pull it through the front. And as you can see, one quick wipe over, the airbrush shaft itself, the needle shaft is clean. We have a little bit of primer on the tip still, so a little bit of cleaner, wipe it over, and there we go. Very little came off, but that would be enough to possibly dry on the needle and prevent it working later on. So a couple of quick black flushes, run round with a brush, take the needle out the back. When you put it back in, make sure the trigger is in the correct position. Pop it all back together, and there we go. That is now ready for the next colour change, or to be left. And like I say, this is my normal cleaning regime. I leave a little bit of airbrush cleaner in there, and we're good to go for next time. So every now and then you're going to need a deep clean, and this is my cleaning kit for the Apex. So we have an iWater magnifier. This is ideal for inspecting needles or nozzles. We've got some dental paper points, again excellent for cleaning into the needle nozzle, getting right in there. We've got multiple spare needles, old needles, nozzles, etc. We've got a reamer, which I don't use anymore as it's pretty vicious. That's used for scraping out paint from the needle nozzle, but I found it causes more damage than good. All my tools are in here for disassembly. This is the Allen key for getting the trigger finger rest off the Apex as well. We've got an old iWater needle nozzle there as well. We've got multiple brushes, and the two brushes I tend to use are the blue one and the thicker one. We've got some tools, some tweezers, and some soft nose pliers. In the middle we've got plenty of spares. All the spares for the Apex are in there, kept nice and secure. Everything's in there that we need for quick and easy fixing of any problems at all. And like I say, these are the brushes I tend to use. So we've got a dental cleaning brush and a proper airbrush cleaning brush too. They're the two I tend to use, along with the paper points, some UMP airbrush cleaner. That's pretty much all I use to clean the airbrush out. So like I say, some UMP airbrush cleaner, absolutely fantastic. If you're using lacquers or anything else, you're going to need lacquer thinner, but for this all we need is the UMP cleaner. So this is the standard Apex. You've just seen me clean in the spray booth. As you can see, we've still got remnants of cleaner in there. So this is one we're going to deep clean today. We also do a 0.2mm fine conversion set for it as well, which takes it from the standard 0.35 down to a more fine 0.2mm needle nozzle set. So in there you get the needle, you get the needle nozzle and a trigger. We also do a 0.5mm conversion set, which as you can see here's on my very well used 2K airbrush. So this is 0.5mm. Be careful on this one, it does have a protruding needle. just through the nature of its design, but very handy for covering large areas in one go. So let's have a look. So what we've got the Apex. We've just done the back flushing off. As you can see, she's nice and clean. We're just going to disassemble her into all her components. Now, like I say, this thing has not been stripped nor cleaned for about 3 months, so I've no idea what we're going to find inside, but we will see. So taking the needle nozzle, the needle out the front, as you can see, we're just having a quick inspect of the needle. All looks fine. Now our needle O-ring is pretty well stuck on. It gets dry paint all over it. As you can see, it's covered in dry paint. I've left this one for quite some time for this purpose, so it should prove a useful demo piece today. So we're going to take all the back part. We're taking the needle out. We're taking the needle chuck nut off. We're taking all the components out the back, spring, the lever, etc. Now, no paint should get down there other than spillages, so it should be pretty clean in there. This poor airbrush is quite old now. It's just showing some signs of wear. As I've just shown you there's the Allen key for the finger rest to be removed. And then you've got your air valve at the bottom there as well, and our quick release, which doesn't come with the airbrush, but you can pick them up from a lot of places. So it's pretty much clean inside. I know that because we've just cleaned it, but we're going to give her a thorough clean and see just how good my cleaning regime is. So we're going to use a single piece of paper, and this is the piece we're going to use all the way through, and we'll see just how much dirt we get out of it. So we separate all the components. Up top right are all the parts that shouldn't really get any paint on them. Top left are all the parts that are eternal or get paint in them. So we'll put a few mil of Ultimate Cleaner in a medicine cup. We're going to drop the parts in, let them soak for 5 minutes before we come back and clean them. A little bit of a swirl around. We'll leave those in camera to soak. We're already cleaned the airbrush, but just for the sake of being thorough, we'll give it a wipe over on our tissue. Now, like I was saying, I'm going to use a single piece of tissue, a single paper point, and a single cotton bud to clean this airbrush. And we'll wipe off all the brushes onto the tissue, just so you can see what we get. Now, the airbrush needle was clean. We know that from before. We're going to give all these internal moving parts a good clean. Now, they get no paint on them by normal day-to-day airbrushing, but if you was to spill some, or overspray, or just day-to-day dirt, we'll collect on them, so they are worth giving a run over. Just be very careful cleaning them. Some of the parts can be easily damaged if they're not cleaned correctly, especially this on the trigger lever. It's quite easy to do, but like I say, we don't get any paint in there through normal use, but if you spill some through the colour cup or what have you, you may get remnants in there. So we're going to give it all a wipe over to ensure it is clean. Now, the airbrush body, although it's been backflowed, there may still be dry paint inside it. So we've got the airbrush cleaning brush in the front to act as a barrier. We're then going to agitate the brush back and forth to get any dry paint that may be in there out. It's a good brush. It's actually a harder than Steenbeck brush. Does the job perfect on this. So we're going to tip it away, just put a little bit of cleaner through it to get any remnants out. As you can see, nothing really out the front of the airbrush itself. So that shows you the cleaning regime I use in the day-to-day basis of backflowing. It works really well. We get cotton bud in there as a final go over and through the front. And again, no problems at all. We've got some dry paint around the threads at the front, so we're going to give it a go over some UMP airbrush cleaner and the brush again. To get the dry paint off. This is where paint's been spilled from the colour cup and has collected around where the O-ring sits, hence why there was paint on the O-ring. As you can see, we're going to get a little bit off this now. Whilst we're at it, we give the whole body of the airbrush a good clean over. We've got a little bit of cleaner on this, so more than enough to shift any dirt on top. And we've got a cotton bud. We're just going to dip it in cleaner, dab off the excess, pop it into the back. Now, we shouldn't get any paint in here at all. If you are, you've got problems. Or if you spilled some through the top, you might get some remnants there. But other than that, you shouldn't really get anything in the back whatsoever. And there we go, another quick wipe over. And that is the airbrush body, spotlessly clean. Okay, we don't drop it. And just have a good look inspection round, make sure there's nothing left. You are going to get wear and tear to it. It is a tool at the end of the day, but as long as it's clean, we know everything is good. Now, we're going to grab a pair of tweezers to pick out some of these parts. We're going to go with the needle nozzle housing first. Again, no paint inside this, but still, just for thoroughness, we're going to give it a good clean with our smaller brush. Inside through the top, a little bit of a twirl around inside. We'll then grab our cotton bud. And again, wiping off the brush to show any remnants. We're probably going to get some off the front of this because, again, it gets exposed to paint spillages. So we're just getting the cotton kitchen roll on there. As you can see, not too bad at all. A little bit of dry paint we get out with a fingernail into the thread. And there we go. That's that done. A little bit around the top. Basically, all this is spill paint, where you spill a drop or a little bit of paint comes over the front of the colour cup, it collects on the front, and it's very, very easy to remove after finish. So there we go, that's the needle nozzle housing clean. As you can see, that cotton bud isn't too dirty yet, not too bad at all. Most of the dirt we've got so far is from exterior surfaces where we've had paint spillages, etc. Now we've got the needle guard as well. This is exposed to a lot of paint, but again, it does get cleaned nearly each time we backflow or push it through because it gets cleaner onto it as you spray. So just a quick once over with the cotton bud. As you can see, again, not a massive amount on there. O-ring, tricky one to clean, but we'll get the paint off it as good as we can. We'll use the kitchen roll to begin with, then probably our fingernail. And whilst it may still look a bit dirty, as long as it's functioning just fine, it'll be perfect to put back on the airbrush. Again, if you're using these for cellulose, if you spill any on this and don't wipe it off, you may find it expands. If it does, hit it with a bit of Ultimate Cleaner and it should, after a few hours, retract and unswell. Just take your time, pick off any excess paint you can find. Or other than that, it's just a few dried on remnants. The actual O-ring is perfectly fine and we will reuse it. Again, worthwhile getting some spares if you're in the habit of breaking things or damaging parts. Get some spares because there's nothing worse than being out of action for a few days whilst you're waiting for spares to be delivered. Again, the trigger shouldn't really get any paint on it whatsoever, but again, off your fingers or through spillages, you may get the odd one or two. I've got a slightly different well, not option. I bought a separate needle from trigger from elsewhere, so mine trigger is slightly different to the standard APEX. It's more cosmetic than anything, and the same applies to the standard trigger on the APEX. Give it a wipe over with the cotton bud, just get any spill paint or dry paint off it. Other than that, there should be nothing on there whatsoever. Once you're happy with that, we can grab our kitchen paper, and as you can see, it's pretty clean so far. Not too bad at all, and this is from 95% of cleaning the airbrush. All we've got left to do now is the needle nozzle, and this should be the dirtiest part we come across. Most of that dirt there is from the exterior parts. We've not really got that much off inside. The cotton bud, whilst it's got a few marks on it, isn't all that dirty really at all. So this has been soaking in airbrush cleaner. As you can see, we have dry paint on the exterior. Just there, we've got some white primer and black primer as well. Inside, you can still see through. If we take out all the excess cleaner, as you can see, the actual inside of the needle nozzle is clean. There's no blockages or anything. And what we're going to do is just take off this paint by giving it a twist on the paper, and you'll see it will look just like new again. With a quick wipe over with some airbrush cleaner and a paper towel. So we're going to go with the interior now, the inside of the needle nozzle. We're going to dip our brush in Ultimate Cleaner into the small interdental brush, and we're just going to agitate it up and down, making sure to get the side walls. As you can see, first clean, we've got a little bit of dirt out there. I wouldn't say it was a massive amount. And again, making sure to get the side walls of the needle nozzle. Don't bother trying to push it right through to the front because you'll more than likely just damage it. That's what we're going to use the interdental paper points for in a minute. Again, another wipe, we've got a little bit in there, but slightly less than last time. So I'm happy that that is pretty much clean. We're now going to dip it into our airbrush cleaner again to fill it with airbrush cleaner and let it drag out on the paper. As you can see, we get a few bits and bobs we've shifted from the inside, and on the second lot, we get nothing really at all. So pretty clean in there, not too bad at all, but the final test is using all the paper points. So you can get these on Amazon and eBay and what have you, and basically it's a hard, compacted, pointed paper point. So we pop it in. Now we're not trying to pull it through the needle nozzle, and don't try because they will get stuck. So we pop it in, we give it a little twist, we grab our tweezers and we just give it another little pull up and down a couple of times. As you can see, nothing really on there at all, pretty clean. So pretty impressed that my day-to-day back flushing cleaning regime has kept this airbrush pretty spotless over time. As you can see, the needle nozzle's like new again. So it does show you that that little regime I've got works very, very well, because I'll be honest, there is not a lot of dirt on that paper at all. The paper point's pretty clean, it's not too bad at all. The kitchen paper, most of those marks are from the exterior, so really can't complain at all there. Literally those two brush marks from the center are from a needle nozzle, and the cotton bud again doesn't really show all that much sign of dirt. So we're a little bit of a wipe up and a tidy up, and now we're going to reassemble the airbrush. Now this is the time where we've got any damaged parts or broken parts to replace them. The O-ring on this could have quite easily been replaced with a brand new one. To be honest, it's perfectly functionable. It's just got a little bit of dirt on it and remnants of paint, but it's still functioning pretty perfectly fine. So we're going to leave that as. The needle nozzle is spotlessly clean now. It's just like new, no problems whatsoever. So we can reassemble it in the order it needs to be. So O-ring on, needle nozzle in, needle nozzle guard cap is in place as well. Then we've got our needle protecting guard at the front. We're going to pop in our trigger rocker lever, the spring, and the barrel on the back as well. Now this is adjustable. You can use this to adjust the trigger pressure to how high, heavy or light you prefer it. Trigger goes in next. Make sure it's seated properly on the air valve inside. And then our needle goes in from the back, ensuring it hits the needle washer inside perfectly fine. Take it back and forward a couple of times to the seats, and then tighten the needle nozzle, the needle chuck up at the back. And then the rear barrel can go on too. And there you go. Perfectly cleaned and assembled airbrush. Get a final wipe over some kitchen roll. Spray through some airbrush cleaner. And as I said before, leave a mil or a couple of drips of airbrush cleaner in it till next time, and you'll be good to go each and every time you're done. Very happy to see that my regime works very well. This thing was really not dirty inside at all, but it does pay to strip them down from time to time, and keeping different airbrushes for different uses is also very useful as well, because it stops cross-contamination of different paints, because some lacquers don't like acrylics. Water-based acrylics tend to not like lacquers, and that can cause more issues as you go along. Okay, so we've got some Reg Dab needle juice from Badger. We sell this at Ultimate Retail as well. We're going to show the 2 points eye lube on the airbrushes for everyday use. So first off, release your needle, pull that out so it's very nearly out the back, and put the smallest dab on. I'll zoom in so you can see. Really, less is more. You do not need a lot of this stuff at all. It's the tiniest stuff. If you get a bubble, retract it, but there you go. Tiny amount of it. Pop it in, pull it back and forth a couple of times. Make sure it's seated properly, tighten it up. Now that little barrel, we're just about to put some lube behind there. You can adjust that back and forth, and that will alter your trigger tension. So we pop a little bit of lube in there, pull it back by hand, and then set it to adjust it just where we like it. Wipe off any excess lube. Have a little check of the feel of it. Once you're happy, put the barrel on the back of the airbrush, and there you go, you're ready to go. Every Ultimate Apex we sell is personally stripped, checked, lubed, and set up by myself for you, so you know when your new airbrush arrives, it's ready and good to go, and we'll give you trouble-free airbrushing for many years if you follow my cleaning regime. So there we go. I'm happy with that. That shows you just how well my little backflow regime actually works, and that is the God's honest truth. That's not edited or staged or anything. If you know me, you know my integrity is good. I don't lie, and yeah, it's one of those things. That's exactly how that airbrush was. Not been cleaned for months, and that's all we got out of it. And I would say 90%, no, 80% of that was from the exterior, from all the little nooks and crannies, and all the areas where paint doesn't get to, but maybe you spill a bit, or you get a bit of overspray from another airbrush on it. I would say 80% of it was from that. The needle nozzle was very clean inside. The body of the airbrush was almost spotless. Virtually nothing came out of that at all. So it just shows you that a good regime using a good cleaner like UMP cleaner pays off dividends with your airbrush maintenance. So bear that in mind. If you're having problems with your airbrush, take a step back, think, might not be the airbrush, it's more than likely dirty. That should always be the first check on the list of problems. The second one could be a damaged part. If it's a damaged part, it's more than likely going to be a bent needle or a split needle nozzle, or next to that is an O-ring or a washer or what have you. But I would say 90% of airbrush problems are down to a dirty airbrush. So bear that in mind. If you know, maybe not up to scratch on your cleaning, or you're getting a bit lax, yeah, just have a good look at the airbrush, take it to bits, learn your airbrush, take it to bits, learn how to assemble it properly, and that will pay off. Again, it'll make it a doddle. Literally, I can clean an airbrush in about 2 minutes, really quick, and I get it spotless. I've taken my time today because I've slowed everything right down for you, but it'll pay off because, as you can see, we didn't get much out of mine at all. So there we go. Hope that's proved useful. If you've got any questions or comments, let me know. Our full range of airbrush cleaner, spares, and the APEX airbrush is all in stock at UMP. They are listed in my list of products I use down below. I'm going to add the paper points to that today because that's something I hadn't added to it. And again, they're a worthy addition, although I've never had any, since I moved over, and people are going to hate me for saying this, since I moved over from Harder and Steenbeck airbrushes, those paper points, they don't really collect anything on them anymore at all. Again, I'm going to be hated for it, but I'm going to say the Harder Steenbeck airbrushes are a nightmare to keep clean. That needle nozzle design is just a nutter pig. It just collects paint in there. The Iwatas are definitely better, but they've just got those really fiddly little needle nozzles. If you know me, I start off Harder Steenbeck airbrushes. Love them. They are fantastic brushes. They're beautiful, absolutely beautiful airbrushes, high quality, really well made, but the needle nozzle setup on those is a massive weak point. The needles bend if you look at them funny, and the nozzles will split on you in a heartbeat if you're not careful at all. So yeah, bear that in mind. Bit of gentle cleaning regime with the Harders. Take care of your needles, take care of your needle nozzles, and you will need to strip them down a lot more. Trust me, I've been there, I've owned them. I had 4 or 5 Harder Steenbecks at one point, and whilst they are great, they are just a nightmare to keep clean. The Iwatas with the standard smaller needle nozzle are much better, really a lot better. Because of the size of that needle nozzle, it doesn't really hold anything. The needles are better, but the sheer size of that little needle nozzle, if you drop it on the floor, you really stand a good chance of losing it because it's absolutely minute. It really is, but they are easy to keep clean. Since I've moved over to the Apexes a couple of years ago, it's literally all I use. They're the only airbrushes I've got, and they are all I use now. Nothing else. It does everything I want it to, whether it be priming, base coating, metallic work, and the 2K. It does the job flawlessly. Never hit any issues or never have problems. They just spray without fault, and if you've seen my cars and bikes, you'll see the results I get with them. And my raiding I did like a few years back, last year I think it was, the last aircraft I built, you'll see the results I can get. I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I know I can get good results, and you can too out there. With time, practice, and using the right tools and the right maintenance regime, you can do it too. So there we go. I've waffled on enough. Hope you found that video useful. If you've got any questions or comments, pop them in the comment section down below and I'll answer them. Anything I've used today, I've shown you, or anything I use in my videos, there's a big list over on the forums, about 90 odd items on there with links to where you can buy them. It's linked in the description down below. There's also links in there for the ISM Facebook page and forum, umpretail.com, my Paul-ISM Facebook page, off-air hangout group for off-air hangouts. You can come join us, have a chat with us while you model through your computer over Tinterweb, and the Live at the Bench show page is there as well. Come on over and have a look and say hello. So there we go. I'll catch you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.